Hello everyone and welcome to Knit Chocolate Pearls. Today's video will be a review of Stylecraft Special yarn. I will be reviewing this in Aran, DK and Chunky, so I will put some timestamps when each category starts below if you only wanted to see one in particular. Now this yarn, I will start by saying it's 100% acrylic. It says 100% premium acrylic. This is the Aran weight, which we'll start with. It's on this ball. It has 196 meters or 214 yards. Recommended 5mm needles or 5mm hook. Wash 30 degrees, cool, tumble, dry, cool, iron. I have accidentally tumbled this on 220 Celsius, which is probably like 300 to 400 Fahrenheit. Don't quote me, you need to check that up yourself. And it didn't destroy it, but it did damage it quite a lot. It made it overly silky and stretched out. Be careful if you do that. Maybe it will be okay on a low one, maybe not. I have washed some of my Stylecraft multiple times on 30 degrees Celsius, slung it on the line, dragged it about, and it's absolutely fine. I wouldn't necessarily put it on a hot radiator just in case, because obviously acrylic yarn is plastic. It could melt, it could warp. You don't want to do that. Now with the Aran here, I will say the Aran seems to have the most variation in weight. So for example, these are some of the colours I just used to make a skirt. Now this one, the camel, seems to be the most consistent with weight. In person it's a slightly deeper colour than it is on camera because I have a bright light coming in, but this is pretty much accurate. This colour is actually thicker, seems a little bit thicker than both of the others, this one in particular. I don't know what it is, but this colour is softer. It could be just the bleaching techniques for the lighter colours, but if you look here, I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera, this one isn't stretched, it's loose in my hands, so is this, and both of them seem to, they don't look fully the same way. This looks closer to a worsted, whereas this looks closer to a chunky. They are both definitely Aran. This is something I noticed with the Aran in particular, it has the most variation in the weight. Now I'm not criticising it for that because I know most yarns do that. Some of them get very thick and then very thin. I would say at times this, not this particular ball obviously, but some of this yarn has gone from being thick to the point I've thought, oh, this is chunky yarn, to the point it reached thin, like this is getting closer to DK. This is like a light worsted yarn. Now the colours themselves seem to vary more. This colour is called gold. This one seems to have by far the most variation. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but if you look, some of the yarn itself looks stretched out, if that makes sense. It looks like the yarn's been pulled and pulled when it hasn't. I've treated this nicely. This is just one ball. I haven't used that much from it actually. But yeah, if you look here you can see the yarn is a little bit fuzzy, but it's thicker here, and then here it seems to get thinner and thinner. It may not show as well on camera because I'm using an old iPhone, but I can feel it. This yarn on this part here feels very sort of dense and tight and tough. This feels softer and not necessarily looser, but it feels better wound. This just feels stretched out. That's the problem with the Aran, is it does have so much variation in its weight, and between the colours as well, noticeably there is a difference. I'll see if I can show it here with these two colours. Now it's not just a colour difference, because I know that lighter colours go through more bleaching, and I know that darker colours tend to be in slightly better condition. It's like hair in a way. But if you look, there is a weight difference there. And if that bothers you, that's something to be aware of, that not every ball is going to be the same. Some of it's going to have areas that are very thick, some that are going to be very thin. The Aran with Stylecraft seems to be, also tends to fray a little bit more. Let's see if we can find any examples. Not really, because I think I cut them away, but there were areas that it was just pulling apart. Like look at the size of that. Look at the size of that compared to some of this other yarn. Let's see if I can get hold of a piece. It doesn't look the same weight to me. That being said, it's nice quality yarn, it's incredibly soft and not at all itchy. I would also recommend buying it from the same dye lot, because I bought, but also be careful of that as well. And I know this sounds silly because I ordered it and it did come from the same dye lot, but the colours were slightly different. Not significantly noticeable, but even in the same dye lot it can be different. So that's something to be aware of. I think I paid like, full price these balls are like £2.70, £2.85 or something like that. You can obviously get them cheaper when they're on sale, which they often are. The Aran is probably the second best quality out of the Stylecraft range. Now I'm going to show you some projects so you can see what it looks like knitted and crocheted, and then we'll go on to the DK. So if you don't want to look at Aran, move straight on to DK. I will say with Aran though, this one splits the most out of the 3 weights I'm going to show you. This one, while I was making my skirt, split at least once, if not 3 to 4 times every row, and it was frustrating. Sometimes I was pulling it back to deal with it, or I found a way to hide it and loop it through to secure it. But that was something that bothered me, alongside this tension where it looks really loose and like it's been strained to the maximum, when it hasn't. It looked like that when it arrived. I think that's just part of the yarn, and yes, it is a budget yarn, so you can't expect it to be perfect, but do be aware of these things before you make your purchase. I think everyone should be aware of that. So anyway, I'm going to move on, show you some of my projects and see what you think. Here is just a quick example of some of the colour patterns, and these are some of the colours I just showed you. Camel, can't remember what this one is, the dark brown, then we have this copper colour, we have gold. These are part of the Aran weight, of course. They blend lovely together. That is something I always say about Stylecraft, is the colour palette is fantastic and it blends beautifully. It is incredibly soft and lovely quality, and like I said, there is fuzziness to it. If it will show, there is some fuzziness to it, and it tends to do that, but it's not as bad with Aran and Chunky as it is with DK. So I also crocheted is it an elastic band into the waist of this. But yeah, that's it. Maybe I'll show you it on. Maybe I'll show you it in another video entirely, because I don't really have appropriate leggings to wear at the moment. I just had a bath and I'm wearing pyjamas. So this whole skirt would have cost probably, I'm going to say, like £8 to £10 to crochet, because I didn't actually use very much. The balls come with quite a lot on them, like I described in the intro. This is acrylic yarn, and yeah, that's just the colour range. Lovely, everything blends together nicely. It crochets really well, the stitches are formed really well. It has a good bit of stretch to it too, but it doesn't tend to lose shape when it's washed. I wouldn't recommend blocking it. I don't think you'll get too much out of blocking it. But yeah, and you also don't want it to become too saggy, especially if it's a heavier garment on a skirt or something like that. Acrylic yarn can tend to be very heavy, especially in Aran and Chunky. You don't want to overstretch a garment, and that's why it's important that if you are making something that goes around your waist, or something you don't want to lose shape, to consider the pull of it, and also consider the fact that you might need something to just keep the waistline from overstretching. You know, if you'd like a tutorial for a skirt like this, let me know below. I'd consider making one. I actually want to make several more of these skirts, and I would consider making it in DK, although I'm a little bit wary about using Stylecraft for that, and I'll tell you about that in the DK segment. I will never understand why this project looks a completely different colour on camera. Even if I take it outside or put it under the ring light, it looks like a dull, almost a racing, muted mossy green. It's actually quite a vibrant green. I wish I could take the colour from my eyes and place it onto the video for you, but the colour, you'll see this online, and I think it was called pine green or something. You'll notice it's a deep bright green, a deep rich, very think of rich houseplant leaves in summer, that type of green. Definitely not dull like this. This was actually the first garment I crocheted probably like 2 and a bit years ago. I just wanted to show this more so to show you the quality of the stitching. This has been thrown in the washing machine a dozen times, and if you look, the stitches are still very precise. There is no pilling, it's not even fuzzy. This is the Aran weight Stylecraft yarn, and it's lovely. Even the thin strings haven't really lost any quality. It's tough and it's still really soft, just as soft as when I made it, if not better. And one thing I will say about these, when you make projects with them, Stylecraft smells really nice. It seems to retain, I don't know if it's my smell or if it's the smell of body wash or something like that, but it always has like a beautiful smell to it. Once you've been wearing it, it like clings to the nicest smells on your body. That makes sense. But yeah, it's lovely, it's warm, it's insulating. You can see there are some fuzzies here, slightly, but overall, throwing this in the washing machine, slamming it on the line and just dragging it about and wearing it sometimes, yanking it on and off, it's taken virtually no damage. I just wish the colour would show properly. And just as a quick note to throw it out there, I just found a hat that I made ages ago in Stylecraft yarn, a crochet hat. I thought I didn't even have a beanie hat. I put it away on top of the wardrobe with some of my older projects, and here it is. This has also been thrown in the washing machine a bunch of times, and you can see it's retained its quality. It actually looks like I've only just made it, and I haven't. I made this, must have been 2 years ago. It had been worn a lot of times, washed a lot of times. I wear my clothes once and immediately have to wash them because I have like OCD. I wash my hands so much. I can't let my clothes touch anything and then it has to be changed. Very silly, I know, but yeah, that kind of gives testament though to the quality and the strength of this yarn for it to be able to put up with being washed and washed and washed. But yeah, always on 30 degrees. I don't tend to put any of my things on the radiator, and I don't tend to expose them to heat, so yeah, they can go on the line, they can go outside, or you can hang it near a hot radiator or the heat. You can also just leave it to air dry, that's fine. It doesn't tend to smell either. So let's get back to other projects. I'm going to try and find a knitted one for you now. So here we have the knitted project with the Stylecraft. This is actually 2 strands of Aran held together. Some places you can see that, most of it you can't. This is the colour silver. I remember this because it's the first jumper I ever knitted. What do you think? I actually love it. It has some mistakes on it. There's like some of the tension's a bit off, and on the back, oh, you're gonna look at this, you're gonna laugh. It was either a lifeline or I dropped my stitches and then put them back on twisted, continued knitting it, and I didn't realise until after I'd worn it like 2 or 3 times. So I then thought, I know, I'll make some bubbles and put them on it. Can't remember the colour of this yarn, bubblegum or something? Or like fondant? Fondant. This is also Stylecraft, and thought I'll bobble it all along and then just couldn't be bothered. But yeah, I kind of wish I came back and fixed this. Maybe I will. This has been washed a number of times, 30 degree heat, and if you look you can see some of the pilling, especially so on the front, probably because like moving around more, things touching it. There is some pilling, there are some fuzzies, but it's kind of a cue I've worn this kind of fuzzing as opposed to this is bad quality yarn. This jumper in total cost me, I remember, even though I did it years ago, this cost me about £11 to make. I paid full price for all of the yarn, and of course holding 2 together I bought extra balls. I think I bought 8 to 10 balls of Stylecraft, something like that. I do remember it was £11. I don't know if I paid full price now or not, because that doesn't fully make sense. Anyway, it kind of gives testament to the quality of it really, that it is an older project. It was a beginner project as well, so this is beginner friendly yarn. Yeah, oh, what did I use? 8mm needles, I remember that. 8mm needles, 2 Aran held together. It is lovely and soft and plush. I just want to keep pushing it. Yeah, so that's what it looks like knitted. It's lovely quality, it's incredibly warm. Of course I'll show you the inside where you can see the pearl stitches. That's what it looks like in garter. Really, really soft, not itchy at all, and that's what I love about it. That's one thing I really love about Stylecraft, is it's not itchy, it retains its shape, you can wash it, you can slam it about, it's tough yarn, it's good yarn. Again, you have some pilling here, but like I said, with the chunky yarn you don't get so much as that. Even though this would sort of equate to the chunky, I can't imagine actually knitting 2 strands of chunky together. I think that would be really, that would make a really, really warm jumper. Crocheting it would probably be even more, but it could be suffocating at that point. Yeah, I would recommend this, especially if you're a beginner or an advanced knitter, could obviously do more with this. I could definitely do a much better jumper with this now, and maybe I will. Maybe you should leave a comment below if you want to see me knit another jumper in Stylecraft, because I'm actually inspiring myself right now. And now we're on to the DK weight yarn. Stylecraft Special DK has 295 metres or 325 yards per 100 gram ball. All of the balls in Stylecraft, at least for the acrylic range that I'm talking about, come in 100 grams. Now they have a very good colour range. Obviously I'm going to try and show you that, especially with the chunky where I have the most amount of colours. These do go at full price for £2.35 per ball. Not sure what it is in dollars or whatever, you need to check that yourself. But yeah, the DK weight has the least variation in the weight of the yarn. If you look at it, it doesn't look strained, and I don't tend to notice areas that are significantly thicker or significantly thinner with DK. It's the most consistent. There are issues with some splitting, but it isn't as bad. However, and that's in comparison to the Aran. However, I will say that a big problem with this yarn is that the DK tends to fuzz or pill more than the other weights. So I will show you some toys and some projects in a minute that I've made with it, because I've made a bunch of amigurumi with it. I don't tend to make clothes with it for this reason, because I don't feel like the DK is such a good quality as the others. Don't get me wrong, it's a lovely soft yarn, it's very nice, and a lot of people would enjoy this. However, I tend to avoid using DK Stylecraft for any garments. It's better used for amigurumi, at least for me personally, just because of that, and just because it tends to feel, it doesn't feel as like well ravelled. How would you describe it? Insecure in a way. It's not, I don't think it is, but it just gives that vibe that it's not fully tightly wound. I have made, and I will show it, what I'm going to rework in another video. It was supposed to be a jumper with granny squares, and it looks lovely, but I'm not the biggest fan of the DK weight for garments, and I think you'll see why when I show it to you. I'm just going to be honest with you, this is another failed project, or more so one that I just gave up on. I was planning to turn this into a blanket, and now I'm probably going to rework it in another video. I have some ideas of what I'm going to do with them, because I have loads of these squares knitted up, and I'm not really sure about making them into a blanket now. However, this is DK weight knitted. This is what it looks like. There's a variety of the colours here in pinks and purples. This one I remember distinctly is called Jam. I really love this colour, to be honest. But yeah, there's one dangling off here. But yeah, just to show you it here, what it looks like knitted. It's lovely. It's quite thin. It's DK weight, of course. It would make a nice lighter garment, but the thing with DK is it tends to attract a lot of fluff. It tends to pill a little bit more, and it just tends to, I don't know, the shape of it doesn't seem to sit in a way that I would like. It's quite difficult to get it to sit comfortably. But yeah. Anyway, I'm going to show you the crochet project next, the other one, to show you again why I wouldn't necessarily make a garment with it personally, especially with crochet. Touching it, it's lovely and soft, but for me, just the way it knits up, I'm not the biggest fan. In one big swatch, it would probably be fine, but it has a lot of fuzzies. I'm not sure if it's going to pick them up, because this project hasn't been touched very much. But yeah, if you can see them, can you see? There's a lot of there's a lot of fuzziness, and there's a lot of fluff that comes off of the DK weight. I noticed that on my table when I was filming a minute ago. There was so much fluff on it, that I was having to wipe it down immediately between takes. So yep, let's get on with the other one. And here is the failed project I'm going to rework soon in another video. This was going to be a jumper, but I kind of gave up on it. Part of the problem was, for me, there was a lot of fuzziness. This yarn tends to also be very insulating. It's not as bad as paint box, but it felt a little bit too warm. Sewing it together is uncomfortable, even if you crochet it together. I sewed this. I've tried crocheting it together, and for some reason I just don't personally like doing that with Stylecraft DK. But as you see, like, the colours are lovely. All of the colours with Stylecraft go together beautifully, regardless of what they are. Even with that purple blanket I just showed you, everything looked lovely together. This is just sunflower crochet granny squares. I mean, I'm happy with them. Looking back on them now, I'm actually happier with them than I thought I was. They need to be pulled tighter. But yeah, this is it crocheted. Like I said, Stylecraft is a really high quality acrylic yarn, especially for its price. You could pay twice the price and not have yarn as good quality as this. However, it's just that, how would I explain it? In a way, I don't even know what I want to explain. It's just, for me, touching it, just the way it works up and it knits. For DK, it feels insubstantial, and it pills so much, and it sheds so much in the DK weight. That's what puts me off, is it never looks as like tight or concise as I personally like. That being said, the colour palette is phenomenal. Whenever it comes to me wanting to make something, especially if it's a non-garment, my first thought is Stylecraft. That's my go-to yarn. And I'm not the biggest fan of acrylic. I've said this in other videos. I'm a wool person. I love wool. But for acrylic yarn, Stylecraft is my go-to above any other yarn, regardless of its price. I've never found one that's quite as good as this, or with the colour palette. I mean, just look at that. All of the colours. They're so pretty. Yeah, I'm going to rework this in another video, so subscribe to see what I'm going to do with it. I'm having plans, and now I had a whole plan for it, and now I'm like, ooh, maybe I'm going to change that again. But yeah, anyway, this is the DK weight yarn. This is it in a project. I think I have some good variation of projects to show you as well, and I'll show you the amigurumi in a moment. So within the DK range I also made a bunch of amigurumi. I can't remember necessarily the names of the colours of these, but I think this was called like cocoa or mocha or something. This is just the standard orange. I made a bunch of little pumpkins. Very cute. Here's your white. Now this is DK weight yarn. It's covered in fluff. They do tend to pick up a lot of fluff and debris, by the way. It clings to this DK weight yarn, and if you notice, the DK for some reason seems to fluff a lot more than the other weights. All of these projects here were made with a 4mm hook, and that's what's recommended for the yarn. I will say though myself, I wish I'd gone down to a 3.5 with some of these, because particularly with the white, it's quite gappy. I feel like I can see through it, and that bothers me a little bit. Like here, you can kind of see the gaps, and I pulled this pretty tightly when I made this donut. Yeah, I love making these donuts. They're so much fun and they're so cute. These little octopus are really cute as well. If you want the pattern, just leave a comment below and I'll try and send you the link. But yeah, this one's called Dandelion. I remember this colour because I accidentally bought 27 balls of it several years ago when I was making a jumper. But yeah, again, like I said, if you want to make amigurumi with it, definitely size down slightly. I made these probably about 1.5 years ago, this about 2.5 years ago, these about nearly 3 years ago now. Always covered in fluff from my squishmallows. But yeah, we should give testament that the yarn lasts. These actually sit these little toys here, the donuts, the octopus, the whale, all sit in the window and have done for about 1 year now, and they haven't really lost any colour. It'd be very minimal. Perhaps on this slightly. This is looking slightly lighter and brighter in person than it is. It's more of a deeper gold than this. Not too far off, just deepen it and warm it up a little bit. Again, I think that's actually the same brown as I used on the pumpkins. You get quite a lot on the ball, so if you're planning to make amigurumi, beware that you'll be able to get quite a few out of one ball of yarn. I think one ball of yarn made like four pumpkins of this and a few octopus of this, and I still had some left over. I wasn't going to use it, so I donated it. Here is the Stylecraft Special Chunky Weight yarn. Now this yarn is 100% premium acrylic. It has 114 metres or 157 yards per ball, natural anti-pilling, knits to all chunky patterns. Of course you can crochet with it. 6mm hook or needles are recommended. 30 degrees machine washable. I've done that. Honestly, it washes beautifully. Also, it says cool iron, or you can cool tumble dry. I accidentally put this on, not this project, but a hat on 220 Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, probably like 300 or 400 odd. And it damaged it, but it didn't completely destroy it. I wouldn't recommend doing it. If you want to put it on a cool tumble dry, do it at your own risk. Now, what I will say straight away about this yarn is it's probably the best quality of the weights of the yarn. Chunky weight Stylecraft is nicest. It doesn't split easily. It washes really well, and it doesn't seem to have quite as many fuzzies. I don't know if they're showing up. It doesn't seem to fuzz quite as much as the smaller yarn. I will say though that the colours seem to vary more in weight. So this white, actually, I'm not sure if it will show up easily on camera, but if you look, it seems slightly chunkier to me, and I know lighter colours do tend to look thicker, but even when I stretch them out, even when I pull them taut, you can see the blue is slightly thinner, and it definitely to me feels a little bit thinner than the white. I don't know why that is with white yarn. I don't know if it's just the processing or something. But here we have some wisteria showing up a lot like cooler and brighter than it is in person. It's quite a sort of the basic lilac colour, basically. Saying basically too much there. And this is coming up, like I said, more neon. And the pomegranate here, I would say that's near enough true to colour. It's a little bit cooler toned looking. I have bright daylight coming in behind me, so that could be why. But here's my temperature blanket from 2023. All of the colours here except the grey. The grey is Signet Chunky yarn. But all of the colours here are Stylecraft Chunky. As you can see, they blend together quite beautifully regardless of the colour or the tone. It's hard to get this out because this is an enormous blanket, and no, I haven't weaved in my ends or dealt with any of that yet. But yeah, so here we have, off the top of my head, we have saffron, we have watermelon, pomegranate lipstick. Can't remember what the green was called. It's very obvious when you go on the website, you'll find it wherever it sells. The blue is Cornish blue right here. The white is I think it's just called white, to be honest. But yeah, these colours all blend beautifully, and the yarn itself, it's heavy, so if you wanted to make something with this, beware, it would be very good for a blanket or a very heavy winter jumper. It's chunky yarn. It's not a joke. It is really warm under here, really cosy. It's lovely, honestly, makes lovely, good, tough blankets, especially if you had like older children or maybe a family member or someone you wanted to make something nice for winter with, or even yourself. It would be lovely. You can get a better look at these cooler tones as well. Again, the purple shows up slightly darker than it is in person, but not much. It is just your standard lilac type of colour. And like I said, this is definitely the best quality of the Stylecraft yarn. If you look as well, it seems to have less fuzzies than a lot of the other ones. It's still slightly fuzzy, but it doesn't fuzz up as much. This blanket's been here for like nearly 2 years now, a year and a half or so, and the fuzzing on it, despite it being dragged about, it's quite minimal, especially for acrylic yarn, which tends to often fuzz up a lot. I know it says anti-pilling on it, but yeah. I would recommend the Stylecraft Chunky over the other weights if you wanted to make something warm and comfy and something long lasting, because this yarn will last a long time. I can feel the quality of it, and it does wash well. It does. Just watch out with the weight of it. If you put it on a washing line, it's likely to break it unless it's a very strong one. Better to lay it flat to dry because of that if it's a large project. Other than that, it doesn't really stretch much. I've hung up my jumpers, I've hung them up and pegged them on the line to dry, and I haven't found any stretching or anything unusual with it. Bear in mind with that though, that if you plan to block something, you're probably not going to get that much stretch out of it. That being said, when you wash it, it will generally retain its shape and it won't pill very much, so you have that as a bonus. So now we're heading into the final portion of the video. It's worth getting into the ethics and sustainability of acrylic yarn. Now, this isn't meant to shame anyone, because obviously I am here using acrylic yarn still. Now, acrylic yarn is made with a lot of toxic chemicals. Sometimes it can contain formaldehyde as a preservative to prevent moths eating it. And yes, every time you wash it, it will shed a couple of 100,000 microparticles of microplastics into the environment, which do not biodegrade. Acrylic yarn itself will not biodegrade. It is plastic, it is made from fossil fuels, and the processing and manufacturing contains a lot of carcinogenic and harmful chemicals. However, the yarns you use are also treated. They are thoroughly rinsed and they are generally safe for human use. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that come out here and say, you're terrible for using acrylic, you're destroying the environment. Acrylic yarn is incredibly budget friendly and accessible, especially to people in this cost of living crisis, where things like wool yarn can absolutely mount up and become an astronomical cost. Some of these jumpers people are making, or blankets, are hundreds and hundreds of pounds or dollars, whatever currency you use, and that's completely inaccessible to some people, and to shame someone for that I think is wrong. So yes, I am criticising people who are saying you're terrible for using acrylic, you shouldn't use that, you shouldn't be allowed to have this hobby or do these projects. That's wrong, because this yarn is not necessarily going to be harmful to your health. However, you should try and limit your exposure to it. You should be wary of the fibres, especially inhaling them. If of course you notice you're putting it on your skin and you're having a reaction, then it's time to not use it, to swap to another brand, or to, better yet, consult your doctor. Some people will react to anything, and it may not be the acrylic itself, it could be the dye, it could be processing, it could even be something someone's handled it with and then placed it into the bag to dispatch it to you, or someone's touched it in a shop with something on their hands. So don't necessarily discredit. All acrylic yarns are different. Here in the UK we have relatively strict standards for what is and what isn't safe. I know a lot of the things in our food, the things in American food, are banned here in the UK and in Europe in general. So there is that. There is the consideration that if you are buying acrylic, perhaps buy it from somewhere with stricter standards, or to really research the brand itself. Is it clean? Is it using strong chemicals? Where are they manufacturing it? That type of thing. What is the impact on the environment? That being said, if you are making an acrylic garment and you intend to use it for years and you don't wash it excessively, you take good care of it, there is no reason why why you can't have that project for years or decades to come. Maybe even pass it on to your grandchildren, who knows. That type of thing. We can't also criticise people for using acrylic yarn and then walk around wearing polyfibre as a lining on a skirt, or wearing socks with a little bit of poly in them to strengthen the wool, because a lot of times you can't just make pure wool socks or they'll fall apart quickly. There's that aspect of hypocrisy that I don't really like. Of course, if you don't want to use acrylic yarn, don't. I don't use it that often, but for some projects I will use it. Stylecraft in general seems to be a fine brand to use. It's a very popular brand. It's available quite widely here in the UK. I've had no health effects from it, neither has anyone in my family who's come into contact with it, and I would say there isn't a brand I've noticed anywhere that people are complaining that they're having a harsh reaction to. That being said, obviously watch for exposing it to high heat and stuff. Do be aware that plastic is a pollutant, so this is making an informed choice, not a shaming, not a bullying on anyone. We should all be aware of the ethics and sustainability of the brands we're using. But Stylecraft, very budget friendly, very accessible yarn for everybody to use. Generally no reactions. It's an incredibly soft yarn. Like I've said before, it's really soft, not itchy at all, very comfortable to wear. If you are concerned about having the yarn against your skin, just wear a cotton top under it or something, or wear a pair of leggings if you're making a skirt, that type of thing. If you are someone who has reactions, don't wear it at all, of course. Just be careful with it. Do be aware that this yarn sheds. I noticed the DK weight, as I said earlier, was shedding on things. However, the chunky doesn't seem to be shedding at all, and the Aran sheds a bit, but not excessively. So even just between the colours it can be different. Every brand is different. I've had brands much more expensive than this of acrylic that have shed everywhere, and that to me bothers me, not just because of the plastic pollutant, but because it's not nice to have it all over your clothes, to have it everywhere, to have it in your mouth, and those types of things can be harmful if you are breathing in fibres. So that's something to be aware of, but not to be terrified of or not to feel bad about. If this is what you can afford and you like it, do it. Some people can afford a lot more and they still choose to use these brands. Personally, like I said, I'm a wool user, but I still come back to Stylecraft because it is so sturdy, it is so long lasting, it can be washed easily, and it can make so many projects. It has so many colour options and such beautiful colours that blend together. The palettes you can create are amazing. As I've shown you with my temperature blanket and my skirt, the colours, you can really do a lot with them, especially if you're a creative person. And with amigurumi you can do this, you can do that, all sorts of different things. But anyway, yeah, I'm starting to waffle on now, and I didn't want to do that because this video is going to end up like half an hour. Anyway, down to the end of it. In summary, Stylecraft Chunky is the best quality of the yarns, followed by Aran and then DK. Aran splits often but not excessively. DK can split often but not too excessively. DK is the most has the loosest fibres, and it's most likely to shed. Whereas Aran sheds a bit, but Chunky doesn't seem to shed very much at all, at least in my experience. If you're looking for something very warm and heavy like a blanket, Aran or Chunky. If you're looking for a lighter garment, then DK, of course. I would recommend this yarn overall. This is my favourite acrylic yarn, and like I said, I'm not an acrylic yarn user that often. If I need to make a project, I go straight Stylecraft because it is extremely soft, not itchy, it's long lasting, it's very strong. And of course, I'm going to say I am not sponsored, this is not an ad, this is just someone who loves to knit and crochet who wants to share reviews with people, because I struggle to find proper reviews online when I'm looking for this, for any yarn really. That's what I want to do as well, allow people to make informed decisions and to offer insight into the yarns themselves and the colour palettes and that, and what you can do with it. I've shown you a variety of projects made from amigurumi to garments, and this yarn is genuinely good quality. I'm not here to try and sell you a project because I'm not a product, because I'm not getting anything out of this other than just making a video to inform you. So anyway, if you like the video, please like, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What experience have you had? Have you used Stylecraft? Are you thinking about using it? What projects do you like? How do you feel about acrylic yarn, and has anyone been bullying you for it? So anyway, I hope to see you in the next video.